What's up, everybody? Brad here with another trade recap. I wanted to first start out by thanking you so much for the amazing feedback that I've received on the last two videos. I'm glad to see that I'm able to provide some value on the trades that I'm taking, so I definitely plan on continuing these videos. But let's jump into the trades that I've taken here on US dollar CAD. I wanted to start on the daily chart just to highlight the previous trade idea here, overall this ascending channel with a very clear impulsive break. So that's giving me the idea to look for downside. If we jump to the 4-hour chart, again, what you're going to see is just all of these impulsive bearish candles. And we'll jump on the hourly now to look at the actual trades that I want to talk about. So the first one here is this bear flag. So essentially what I was looking at was this impulse correction, impulse to the downside, and what I was starting to notice is we just had this really corrective low momentum correction here. So when I jump onto the 15-minute, which is ultimately where I got the clarity for this setup to take, and it just makes this setup even clearer. You just see this overall corrective behavior, price kind of trickling, not really breaking the highs. So I sent an entry order basically just below this low right here to take a sell, and initially price impulsively broke the bear flag, got two nice impulsive candles, but then price began just kind of correctively moving to the downside. So I started to notice this overall kind of descending nature to it, which ultimately explains this pop to the upside. When I seen this high test candle partial retrace, gave me a little bit of confidence knowing that there was going to be a little bit more downside to be seen. And as price again began trickling to the downside, just noticing that we're not really getting the impulsive move that I was expecting. And again, just kind of printing this overall descending channel. It was kind of at this point I decided I'm going to move this position to break even, just to lock in just a little bit of profits, really just to reduce risk at that point. And what you'll notice is price just popped up, tagged me out. So overall, nothing crazy there, 0.1% profit, but we'll dig into this trade because I think that this one is definitely going to be helpful. But what I wanted to highlight here, just as a key lesson for everyone, and myself included, was just really taking those messages from the markets. You know, we had the impulsive break, but then we started to have the overall descending nature, and really just being able to factor in what the market is telling you can really make the difference between taking that 1% loss and just getting frustrated, not fully understanding what's going on. So really take a step back and ask yourself, you know, what is the market telling me? It'll give you a lot of insight on how to better manage your positions, and really give you that 1% edge that we're all really fighting for here. So if we look on this next trade idea, I started to notice that price was creating this overall ascending channel, and what really stood out to me is we have 1, 2, 3 touches of this ascending channel, and a nice high test tweezer top candle formation with a beautiful retracement candle. It was that retracement that ultimately gave me the idea to take the sell position. So I entered as a risk entry on the retrace candle. So what I'm going to do is we'll go to bar replay and kind of walk through my overall management of this trade. Price impulsed initially, tagged me in, starts off to a pretty good start. It was this high test, gave me a little bit of concerns because what I was starting to notice is price was beginning to kind of correct. So keeping in mind the previous trade, you know, are we going to be kind of putting more in descending nature to go up for a further touch or third touch of this expanding formation? So keeping that in mind, I decided, you know, let's move this to break even, just to reduce risk. And anyone who knows me definitely am big on that. And so if we kind of keep pushing forward, we see a nice impulsive break, so we can view this as impulse correction, impulse continuation to the downside. And as we are approaching the trend line here, price was a little bit corrective, kind of struggling to break the bear flag, or ascending channel rather, but it was this impulsive candle that definitely kind of gave confirmation that that was happening. I wanted to lock in a little bit of profit here, so decided to kind of put my stop loss just in and around this overall corrective area here. Got a retrace candle, so a little timely there. And as we see, again, starting to notice this overall descending nature. So kind of keeping all of that in mind, but it was this impulsive candle, kind of confirms some things here. And really, price is just trickling, and this is quite common. If you look at the time, this is around 5 p.m. when the New York session closes and is transitioning to the Australian Open and Asian Open. So usually at this point, it's pretty common to see more corrective market behavior. So it can be a little off-putting at first. But ultimately, as you'll notice, price just continues impulsing to the downside. It was at this point, so it was about 6:45 my time, just finishing up dinner, all that kind of stuff. So I haven't had a chance to look at the charts. And when I came back, I kind of noticed this was what I looked at, noticing that we have this massive high test, a big gap between the profit that I've locked in into where price currently is. Definitely didn't want to give back that much profit if I didn't have to. So I decided to trail my stop loss pretty much just above this high test candle, give it enough room to breathe, but nothing too crazy. And as you see, price really is trickling up. We get a nice retrace candle, so you could be viewing this as impulse, correction, impulse to the downside, just as a further confluence. And sure enough, we get that impulse. But ultimately, price begins to kind of just begin trickling. So in the back of my mind, I was kind of keeping, again, this overall descending kind of formation in the back of my mind in terms of management, things like that. So it was ultimately when we started to get here, I started to think to myself, okay, we can start closing the gap in terms of capitalizing on this move. So I decided I'm going to move my stop loss to this point, basically just above this overall area. You see price reacted here, we broke it, corrected again, and we're constantly kind of testing this area. So this could be the inflection point that we need to really change the overall trade idea. And as you'll see, price is just trickling. And again, if we kind of highlight from the previous trade, just overall, we're putting in this descending channel. And what we'll see here is, boom, we get this pop up. This is what tagged me out for about 4.7% profit. So overall, really happy with how the trade was managed. Definitely some lessons to take from there. And again, it just highlights really just taking that message from the market, understanding that, you know, when we start to see this overall kind of descending nature, prices just starting to correct, trickle, that could be a sign that something is changing. So from a management perspective, it's just about taking those messages to truly understand what's happening. And the last trade that I want to quickly go over is basically this one here. Price started to form this bear flag. So basically just an extension of what we were looking at previously. We have this impulse, correction, impulse. All of this happened during the London session while I was sleeping, but when I woke up, I just noticed basically this third touch, these three touches here, every time price tapped up into the upside, we just got to move away from it. And kind of just keeping that in mind, I seen this impulsive candle broke here, decided, you know, I would take the entry here with a 25 pip stop and initially into drawdown. And it was at this candle here. So what happened was there was some CAD news. I was in a meeting at the time, didn't even know that there was Canadian dollar news happening. So when I got out of my meeting, just noticed that we had this massive rejection to the upside and to the downside. And often those type of candles can really add a lot of confusion because you're not really sure where price is going to go next. So decided that I wanted to lock in some profits. And essentially what ended up happening is I moved the trade to 50%, or sorry, 0.5% profit. The candle was about down to here. In hindsight, definitely was very aggressive on my stop trail. But ultimately what you see is price just kind of continued moving to the upside. And just kind of overall, the trade was not the greatest. So this was kind of a lesson. I was able to grab something from this trade, but you know, this is why we review our trades, to really understand what we did, and just taking those lessons and improving our trading. It's that 1% that we're focusing on always. So I just wanted to thank you again for taking the time to check out this video. If you have any feedback, please feel free to share that with me.